There is a strange and quiet landscape that many of us arrive at on the healing path. It's the landscape that comes after the war, after the storms of anger have passed and the tides of guilt have receded. You expected to find a field of flowers, a world of vibrant color and joy, but instead you find a profound and unsettling stillness, an emptiness. The old dramas that used to fuel your days are gone. The constant striving, the people-pleasing, the inner turmoil, it's all quiet now. But in its place, there is a hollow ache, a sense of being untethered, and a frightening thought begins to whisper. Is this it? Is this all there is? Did I do all that work for this? I want you to know, if you are in this place, you are not lost. You have not failed. You have simply arrived at one of the most sacred and most misunderstood stages of transformation. It is the space between breaths, the winter of the soul, what the great psychologist Carl Jung, drawing from ancient alchemy, called the Negrado, the dark night. It is not a final destination. It is a fertile void, a sacred pause. And understanding its purpose is the key to navigating it with trust instead of terror. Because in this quiet, holy darkness, the seeds of your truest self are beginning to germinate. To navigate this emptiness, we first must give it its proper name. We must grant it the dignity it deserves. The ancient alchemists, who Carl Jung saw as the first depth psychologists, had a name for this. They called it the Negrado, literally, the blackening. In alchemy, the goal was to transform lead into gold, but they knew you could not simply polish lead and expect it to shine. The first, most crucial, and longest stage of this transformation was the Negrado. It was the process of taking the raw material, the lead, and subjecting it to an intense fire until it broke down completely, until it was reduced to its most basic, undifferentiated black ash, the prima materia, or first matter. It looked like death. It looked like failure. But the alchemists knew this black ash was not an end. It was the necessary beginning. It was the fertile ground from which the gold could eventually emerge. This is a perfect metaphor for our own psychological journey. The lead is our old self, the persona, the collection of masks, roles, and survival strategies we built to navigate the world. The people pleaser, the good girl, the strong one. The fire of our shadow work, the painful process of facing our anger, our guilt, our grief, has done its job. It has broken down that old structure. The mask has crumbled. And what are we left with? The black ash, the emptiness, the Negrado. It feels like nothing is happening, but that is a profound illusion. In this quiet, dark space, the most important work is being done. Think of a caterpillar in its chrysalis. From the outside, the chrysalis is still. It looks dead. But inside, a process of almost unimaginable violence and transformation is underway. The old form of the caterpillar is literally dissolving into an imaginal soup, a nutrient-rich goo. It is no longer a caterpillar, but it is not yet a butterfly. It is in a state of pure, undifferentiated potential. This liminal space, this in-between state, is the Negrado. It is the sacred pause. When you are in this stage, you might feel a profound sense of disorientation. The old goals that used to drive you, getting the promotion, being liked by everyone, having the perfect home, they suddenly feel hollow, meaningless. The old dramas and anxieties that used to occupy all your mental space have vanished, leaving a strange silence. You might even miss them, because at least the struggle gave you a sense of identity. Now, you feel like a blank slate. You are no longer the caterpillar, but you don't have your wings yet, and you don't know what you are becoming. This is terrifying. It's so important here to distinguish this fertile void from clinical depression. While they can share some surface similarities, like a lack of motivation, their underlying energy is completely different. Depression often feels heavy, hopeless, and full of self-criticism. It is a state of being stuck in the mud of the past, often accompanied by a sense of worthlessness. The Negrado, the sacred pause, feels different. It is not heavy. It is light. It is empty. There is often a quiet curiosity beneath the confusion. It's not that you feel worthless, it's that you feel formless. It is a state of stillness that is looking forward, even if you don't know what you are looking for. It is the soul, having cleared out all the old furniture, now sitting quietly in an empty room, waiting for new inspiration to arrive. I remember my own journey through this. After years of intense inner work of wrestling with my shadows, a day came when the noise just stopped. The constant inner critic, the anxiety, the anger, it was all gone. And my first reaction was not relief. It was panic. I had spent my entire life defined by my struggles. My identity was that of a seeker, a healer, someone working on themselves. Without the struggle, who was I? The emptiness felt like a failure. I thought I had broken myself. I tried to force new goals, to find a new problem to solve. But my soul refused. It demanded this pause. It took months of learning to simply be in that space, to trust the process, to sit in the empty room of my own being and just wait. And slowly, so slowly I almost missed it, new things began to grow. Not from my mind, not from my effort, but from the quiet soil of the emptiness itself. A new sense of purpose, a new kind of creativity, a new kind of quieter joy. The butterfly was beginning to form its wings. So if you are in this space, know this. You are not broken. You are in the chrysalis. You are not failing. You are in the Negrado. Your soul is not lost. It is undergoing the most profound and sacred process of transformation. Your only job right now is not to fight it. It is to honor it, to create a safe space for this alchemical process to unfold, and to learn how to be a gentle, patient midwife to the new self that is waiting to be born. So we have given this space a name, the Negrado, the chrysalis, the sacred pause. This act of naming is powerful. It moves an experience from the realm of personal failure into the realm of universal human process. But to truly surrender to this stage, we must understand its profound purpose. This emptiness is not a mistake. It is not a void. It is a womb. And it serves three critical functions on the path of individuation, the journey to becoming whole that Carl Jung described. The first purpose of this sacred pause is to recalibrate your nervous system. For years, perhaps your entire life, your nervous system has been operating in a state of hyper-arousal. The constant vigilance of people-pleasing, the simmering anxiety of potential conflict, the exhausting work of suppressing your truth. This is like running an engine in the red, day after day.
The storms of anger and the waves of guilt you processed were the sounds of that engine finally seizing up and breaking down. Now the engine has gone quiet. This emptiness you feel is the silence of a system that is finally at rest. It is a deep physiological sigh of relief. Your body and your psyche are in a state of profound recovery. They are resetting to a new baseline, a baseline of calm. Before any new growth can occur, this deep cellular rest is non-negotiable. The soil must be allowed to lie fallow before it can be fertile again. To try and force action or excitement during this stage is to interrupt the deepest healing you have ever known. It is to tell your exhausted system that it is not allowed to rest. And so, we must learn to honor the silence. The second and perhaps most disorienting purpose of the Negrado is the dissolution of the old ego. The ego, in Jungian terms, is our center of consciousness, our sense of I. And for most of our lives, that I is built around our persona. Let's imagine a woman we can call Jessica. For 30 years, Jessica's identity was clear. I am a successful lawyer. I am a devoted wife. I am a perfect hostess. I am the one everyone can count on. This was her ego structure. It was solid. It was rewarded by society. It gave her a sense of purpose and worth. But through her shadow work, she began to see the cracks in this structure. She realized her success came at the cost of her health. Her devotion came at the cost of her own dreams. Her reliability came at the cost of her authenticity. The fire of her journey has burned down that old house of identity. And now she stands in the empty lot. And she asks the terrifying question, if I am not that, then who am I? This is the essence of the emptiness. It is the feeling of no longer having a solid identity to cling to. The old roles no longer fit. The old motivations feel hollow. You are experiencing an ego death, and it feels like a real death. Because a part of you, the part you thought was you, has died. This is a grief process. It is normal to feel lost, unmoored, and profoundly confused. You are in the imaginal soup of the chrysalis. You are pure potential, waiting for a new form to crystallize. It is a state of radical unknowing. And our modern culture gives us no language for this, no rituals to honor it. We are taught to always have a 5-year plan, to always know who we are and where we are going. This sacred pause asks for the opposite. It asks for your surrender. It asks for your willingness to not know, to be empty of answers so that a deeper truth can have space to arise. This leads to the third and perhaps most beautiful purpose of this sacred pause. It creates the silence necessary to hear a new voice. For your entire life, your inner world has been dominated by the loud, demanding voices of the ego and the persona. The voice of I should, the voice of I have to, the voice of what will they think? These voices were so loud they drowned out everything else. But now, in the stillness of the Negrado, a new voice can finally be heard. It is much quieter. It is subtle. It is what Carl Jung called the self with a capital S. The self is your center of wholeness, your inner divine blueprint, your soul's intelligence. It does not speak in commands. It speaks in whispers, in nudges, in synchronicities, in the quiet language of dreams. It might be a sudden urge to paint, even if you haven't painted in 20 years. It might be a deep longing to be near the ocean. It might be a book that mysteriously falls off a shelf into your path. This is the voice of your true nature beginning to emerge from the ashes of your old identity. But you can only hear it if you are quiet enough, if you are empty enough, if you are not frantically trying to fill the void with old distractions and new ego-driven goals. The emptiness is a clearing in the forest. It is the space required for the shy, wild animal of your true self to finally step out into the open. So this pause is not passive. It is active, sacred listening. It is a state of profound openness. You are not doing nothing. You are doing the most important thing you have ever done. You are creating the conditions for your own rebirth. You are midwifing your own soul. And that holy, terrifying, and magnificent process cannot be rushed.
So the question becomes, if our only job is to honor this sacred pause, how do we do it? In a world that screams for productivity, for goals, for constant progress, how do we practice the art of conscious stillness? How do we trust a process that feels like we are doing nothing at all? The answer is, you must become a gentle guardian of your own emptiness. You must protect this fallow ground from the panicked impulses of your own mind and from the well-meaning but misguided advice of the world. Your mind will tell you that you are being lazy, that you are losing your edge, that you need to figure out your next move right now. This is the ego, terrified of its own dissolution, trying to reclaim control. Your job is to treat that panicked voice with compassion, but not to obey it. To say to it, I hear your fear. Thank you for trying to protect me, but we are safe. We are resting now. I want to offer you 3 practical ways to honor this Negrado stage, to create a safe container for the alchemy to happen. The first practice is to shift your central question. For most of our lives, we operate from the question, what should I do? This question comes from the ego. It is about control, action, and external validation. During the sacred pause, this question is poison. It will only create anxiety. The new question, the question of the self, is this: what is wanting to emerge? Or what is my soul whispering to me in the quiet? This is a radical shift from doing to being, from imposing to listening. I invite you to write this new question down. Put it on your mirror. Make it your mantra. Every time you feel the panic of what's next rising, gently guide yourself back to this question. What is wanting to emerge? This question creates an atmosphere of patient, curious, and loving attention. The second practice is to embrace aimless activity. Our culture is obsessed with purpose-driven action. Everything must have a goal, a point, an outcome. The sacred pause invites you to rediscover the forgotten art of aimlessness. This means engaging in activities purely for the process, not for the product. Go for a walk in the woods with no destination in mind. Lie on the grass and watch the clouds without trying to find shapes in them. Listen to a piece of music, not to analyze it, but to let the vibrations wash over you. Doodle in a notebook with no intention of creating a masterpiece. These aimless activities are a form of active meditation. They quiet the striving ego. They calm the nervous system. And they create the spaciousness required to hear the subtle whispers of the self. When I was deep in my own Negrado, I started taking photos. Not to become a photographer, not to post on social media. I would just walk and take a picture of anything that caught my eye. A crack in the sidewalk, the texture of a leaf, the way light hit a wall. It was an aimless practice of noticing beauty. And through that simple, goalless activity, I began to reconnect with a sense of wonder I thought I had lost forever.
The third and most crucial practice is to curate your inputs. When you are in the chrysalis, you are incredibly sensitive and porous. Your old ego defenses are down. This makes you vulnerable. You must become a fierce protector of your own energy field. This is a time to go on a low-information diet. Limit your exposure to the news, to the endless scroll of social media, to the dramas and opinions of others. These external voices will drown out the quiet new voice of the self that is trying to emerge. This is also a time to be very mindful of who you share your journey with. Not everyone will understand the sacredness of your emptiness. Well-meaning friends and family might try to fix you. They might say, you just need to get out more, or maybe you should start a new hobby. Their advice comes from a place of love, but it is based on the old paradigm of doing, not being. It's like telling the chrysalis it needs to try harder to be a caterpillar. Find one or two people in your life who can simply hold space for your unknowing. A friend, a therapist, a mentor, someone who you can say to, I feel empty and I don't know who I am right now, and who will respond not with advice, but with a simple, powerful, I know, it's okay. I am here with you in the quiet. Protecting your stillness is one of the most radical acts of self-love you will ever perform. This stage of the journey, this sacred pause, will not last forever. The alchemists knew that after the Negrado, the blackening, comes the albedo, the whitening. It's the dawn after the dark night. A new sense of clarity, of purity, of self begins to emerge. You will not have to force it. One day you will wake up and the path forward will simply be there. The new purpose will have crystallized. The wings will have formed, and you will be ready to fly not as the person you thought you should be, but as the person you were always truly meant to become. Trusting this process is the ultimate act of faith. Not faith in a god or a dogma, but faith in the profound alchemical intelligence of your own soul. A soul that knew you had to become empty to finally become whole.
We have traveled today into the quiet heart of transformation. We have stood in the emptiness and given it a new name. Not failure, not a void, but the nigredo, the sacred pause, the fertile ground of the soul. We've learned that this stage is not a problem to be solved, but a profound process to be honored. It is the necessary recalibration of your nervous system after years of overdrive. It is the dissolution of the old false ego, clearing the way for a more authentic identity to emerge. And most importantly, it is the sacred silence in which you can finally hear the whispers of your true self. The journey of shadow work, this path that Carl Jung charted, is not always about dramatic battles with our demons. Sometimes, the most courageous work is to simply be still, to trust the darkness, to have faith in the winter of our own soul, knowing that spring is being prepared in the unseen depths. To surrender the need to know, to control, to plan, and to simply listen. Your worth is not measured by your productivity. Your value is not defined by your role. You are not the sum of your achievements. You are a soul undergoing a magnificent alchemical transformation. And this pause is a holy and non-negotiable part of that process. But as you learn to sit in this new, quieter space, as you begin to detach from the old dramas, you may start to notice something else. You may start to notice how much of your old identity was tied up in what other people thought of you. The drive to be liked, to be approved of, to be seen as good, was a powerful engine. Now that the engine has quieted, you are left with a new, lingering question. If my worth doesn't come from their approval, where does it come from? How do I stop caring so much about what other people think? How do I build a sense of self that is solid, internal, and unshakable regardless of external validation? Deconstructing this deep need for approval and finding the true source of your own value is our next great work together. And that is the journey we will embark upon in our next video, Why You Can't Stop Caring What Others Think, Carl Jung's Answer. I hope to see you there. For today, your only practice is one of gentle trust. This is a community that understands the value of stillness. Your quiet journey is as valid and as powerful as any storm. In the comments below, I invite you to share one small thing. What is one aimless activity you can gift yourself this week to honor your own sacred pause? A walk without a destination? 5 minutes of watching the clouds? By sharing your intention, you give yourself permission to rest. And you give others permission to do the same. Thank you for your quiet courage, for your willingness to be in the unknowing. This emptiness you feel is not the absence of life. It is the presence of potential. It is the silence before the music. It is the sacred womb from which you will be reborn.